Before we start, everything you're about to hear is historically verified. We use AI only to bring history to life visually. The facts, the numbers, the human cost. All real, all sourced. This is HistoryBilled. August 1953, Columbus, Ohio. Private Tommy Pierce is 22 years old. He has been away for 3 years. He left as a 19-year-old boy who had never left Ohio. He is coming back as something else entirely. His train pulls into the station. No crowd, no band, no flags. His mother is there. His father shakes his hand. His neighbor asks, "Where were you?" "Korea," Tommy says. His neighbor nods slowly. "That's the one in Asia, right?" Tommy doesn't answer. He spent 3 years in temperatures of 40 below zero. He watched friends die for hills that had numbers instead of names. He saw the most devastating air campaign since World War II, and nobody here knows any of it. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Harry Truman is sitting in the Oval Office with a very different problem. He has just ended a war that he never officially started, in a country that America never officially went to war with, over a border that was drawn in 30 minutes by 2 men with a map from National Geographic. This is the story of the Korean War, the war America forgot and never stopped paying for. To understand Korea, you have to go back to 1945. World War II is ending. Japan surrenders. And Korea, a Japanese colony for 35 years, is finally free. Or so Koreans thought. On the night of August 10th, 1945, 2 American colonels named Dean Rusk and Charles Bonesteel were given an extraordinary assignment. They had 30 minutes to decide the future of a country neither of them had ever visited. They spread a National Geographic map across a table in a Pentagon office. They needed a line, something that would divide Korea between American and Soviet occupation zones. They found the 38th parallel. It roughly split the peninsula in half. It kept Seoul, the capital, in the American zone. It made no sense geographically. It made no sense culturally. It cut through farms, villages, roads, and railroad lines. Rusk later admitted this himself. The line was arbitrary, chosen simply because they had run out of time. The Soviets accepted it without question. 25 million Koreans were divided. Not one of them was consulted. The plan was temporary. Elections would be held. Korea would be unified. That was the plan. Within 5 years, that line would cost nearly 5 million lives. By 1950, the temporary line had become 2 countries, North Korea, communist, Soviet-backed, led by Kim Il-sung. South Korea, American-backed, led by Syngman Rhee, both dictators, both brutal, both claiming to be the real Korea. On June 25, 1950, Kim Il-sung got permission from Stalin to invade the South. 75,000 North Korean troops crossed the 38th parallel. Seoul fell in 3 days. The South Korean army collapsed. American troops rushed in from Japan, garrisoned soldiers trained for peacetime, not combat. They were overwhelmed immediately. By August, American and South Korean forces were pushed into a tiny perimeter around the port of Pusan in the very bottom corner of the peninsula. The Joint Chiefs of Staff began making secret plans for a full evacuation. Korea was weeks away from falling completely to the communists. Private Tommy Pierce arrived in Korea that summer. He stepped off the ship into a country that looked like the end of the world. Burning villages, refugees on every road, a war being lost in real time. In Washington, Truman was watching it all from the Oval Office. He had not asked Congress for a declaration of war. He called it a police action, a decision that would set a precedent for every undeclared American war that followed. Vietnam, Libya, Syria, all of them. Korea was the template. Then came September 15th. General Douglas MacArthur had a plan, an amphibious landing at Inchon, a port on the west coast of Korea 100 miles behind enemy lines. Every military expert said it was impossible. The tides at Inchon varied by 30 feet. The landing windows were minutes long. The approach channel was a single narrow passage. One mine could block the entire fleet. MacArthur said, "We shall land at Inchon, and I shall crush them." He was right. The landing was a masterpiece. North Korean forces had not expected it. Their supply lines were cut. Seoul was retaken in 2 weeks. More than 125,000 North Korean troops were captured or killed. The war seemed won. Tommy Pierce fought through Seoul. He had arrived 3 months earlier thinking he might die. Now he thought he might be home by Christmas. MacArthur thought the same. He told his troops the war would be over by the holidays. He was about to make the worst mistake of the entire conflict. MacArthur didn't stop at the 38th parallel. He pushed north, all the way north, toward the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China. China had warned repeatedly that American troops approaching its border would mean war. MacArthur dismissed every warning. He believed the Chinese were backward. He believed they would never attack. On November the 23rd, 1950, American soldiers celebrated Thanksgiving within sight of the Chinese border. MacArthur told them they would be home by Christmas. That night, 300,000 Chinese soldiers crossed the Yalu River. They came in the dark, in silence, without air support, without modern equipment, and they completely destroyed the American lines. Tommy Pierce was at the Chosin Reservoir when the Chinese hit. 30,000 UN troops surrounded by 120,000 Chinese. Temperatures of 40 degrees below zero, equipment freezing, men dying. What followed was the largest naval evacuation in American history, a desperate retreat under fire, through mountains, ice, and darkness that killed men as surely as bullets. In Washington, Truman faced a new reality. MacArthur wanted to bomb China. He wanted to use nuclear weapons. He was publicly challenging the president's authority. Truman fired him. MacArthur's approval rating was 69%. Truman's was 22. He fired him anyway. It was the right decision. But the damage was done. By mid-1951, the war had settled into a stalemate. Both sides dug in roughly along the 38th parallel, the line that 2 colonels drew in 30 minutes on a National Geographic map. And there they stayed for 2.5 years. American soldiers fought and died for hills with numbers instead of names. Heartbreak Ridge, Pork Chop Hill, Old Baldy, the Punch Bowl. A hill would be taken, then lost, then taken again, the same ground, over and over. While negotiations dragged on at Panmunjom, Tommy Pierce spent those 2 years in the trenches. He turned 20, then 21, then 22. He watched men die for positions that would be abandoned the next week. He stopped asking why. In Washington, a new president arrived, Dwight Eisenhower. He had campaigned on ending the war. He came to Korea. He saw the stalemate. He said what everyone already knew. We cannot stand forever on a static front and continue to accept casualties without any visible results. The war needed to end. On July the 27th, 1953, the armistice was signed at Panmunjom, not a peace treaty, an armistice, a pause in hostilities. The border was restored roughly along the 38th parallel, almost exactly where it had been before the first shot was fired. 3 years of war, millions dead, a continent devastated, and the border didn't move. Now let's add up the bill, the direct military cost, $30 billion in 1953, $389 billion in today's money, 36,634 Americans dead, 103,000 wounded, more than 8,000 still listed as missing in action, more than from Vietnam. And the Korean people? An estimated 2.5 to 3 million civilians killed, more than 10% of Korea's entire population. The United States dropped 635,000 tons of bombs, more than on the entire Pacific theater in World War II. At least 50% of 18 out of North Korea's 22 major cities were completely destroyed. 85% of all buildings in North Korea gone. General Curtis LeMay later said, "Over a period of 3 years, we killed off about 20% of the population of Korea." This bombing campaign, almost completely forgotten in America, is seared into North Korean memory. It is the answer to the question Americans keep asking. Why does North Korea hate us so much? This is why. And the war never officially ended. There is no peace treaty, just an armistice, a ceasefire that has now lasted over 70 years. 28,500 American troops are still stationed in South Korea today. The post-war occupation has cost over $830 billion, more than twice the cost of the war itself. The meter is still running. Back in Columbus, Ohio, Tommy Pierce gets a job at his father's garage. He doesn't talk about Korea. Nobody asks. Vietnam is coming. That war will have protests. That war will have songs. That war will be remembered. Korea gets a memorial in Washington 42 years after the armistice. 42 years. By then, Tommy is 64 years old. He drives to Washington to see it. 19 stainless steel soldiers walking through a field of juniper bushes. One inscription on the wall: "Freedom is not free." He stands there for a long time. $389 billion, 36,000 dead Americans, 3 million Korean civilians. A border that never moved, a war that never officially ended, and a generation of American soldiers who came home to a country that had already moved on. Was it worth it? South Korea today is one of the wealthiest democracies in the world, a global technology leader, a thriving nation of 50 million people. North Korea has nuclear weapons pointed at American cities, weapons built specifically because of what America did to them in the 1950s. So the question isn't simple. Nothing about Korea ever was. The Korean War created the template for every American forever war that followed. Undeclared, unwinnable, expensive, forgotten. Tommy Pierce understood this. He just never got to say it on the evening news. Was the Korean War worth $389 billion? Leave your answer below. And if you want more stories where history gets a price tag, subscribe to HistoryBilled. Every war has a price tag. This one is still being paid.